Hi there, my name is Tara Stewart and I am the Chair of Spinal Research and also a C6-7 tetraplegic, and I'm just jumping on here to answer some questions around the Pathfinder research that we have just published the results of, a research study that was taking 10 participants 3 times a week using neuromodulation for a year, funded by us at Spinal Research. So we had a number of questions about it coming out of the publication of the results, and so I thought it'd be quite useful just to jump on here and just do a quick Q&A. I've collated the main questions to answer here, although sometimes the answer is going to be we don't know, but we'll do the best to try and get through the main questions. So the first one was, what is the machine that was used, which is called the ARC-EX, and how does it work? So the ARC-EX is a machine made by a company called Onward, and I should just say here that we are talking about the Onward machine here, but we are also using lots of different stimulators from different companies in different research trials. So Spinal Research aren't backing any particular machine, it's just that this is the first one to receive clearance, commercial clearance, at the moment FDA clearance in the States, to be used to restore function for people suffering from a spinal cord injury. So there have been lots of spinal stimulators kicking around, often used for neuropathic pain, often used on people with other back problems, not just spinal cord injury. But this is the first electrical stimulation of the spinal cord machine to recover function. And that's what it's been designed for. And it works through the skin, transcutaneously. Electrodes, if you've ever had FES, it's electrodes on the skin placed at different points on the spine that you want stimulating. And that, briefly speaking, is how it works. I've tried it myself. It's not painful. I'd say it's less painful than FES, just in case you were wondering that. And what the stimulation does is it reactivates or reawakens the spared tissue in the spinal cord. So the vast majority of people with a spinal cord injury still have some tissue left over. It's very rare for the spinal cord to be completely severed. There are a few people that have a completely severed cord, but most people have some tissue left, and the machine works on that spare tissue. So what that does mean is that results do vary widely from person to person, because it depends on how much tissue they've got left over, which tissue has been left over, how they respond to the treatment, etc., etc. So no one person has the same injury, no one person will probably get the same results. So just to bear in mind that the results do vary. The next big question was, what functions can it recover? Well, the honest answer to that is we don't know the full. I mean, it's very early stages with this field of research. But in this trial, we had 10 participants from cervical through to low thoracic level, so lots of different levels, different types of injuries, different age grades, different times after injury. All of them are chronic, so more than a year after injury. One person was more than 20 years post-injury. And we saw various things. So we saw, as you will see in the results, one person recover bowel and bladder sensation, people recover arm strength, hand strength, people improve on neurological level. One person went from a T6 to a T11, so recovered a lot of torso function. Another person started taking steps unaided. So it really does vary. And there are lots of other trials happening all over the world. For example, it's had quite good results in a blood pressure trial, which I'm sure will be coming up fairly soon. Yeah, lots of other stuff that it's been looked at. So early days, but we've had quite a few different function results from the trial that we did. Is it safe? Well, again, early days. The only contraindication that we had was that you can't use it if you have a syrinx, but we were using on 10 people 3 times a week for a year, which is a pretty sustained period of time. We didn't have any adverse events from our trial. So fingers crossed, we say that's a good thing. Does it involve surgery? No, as I've explained, it's through the skin, so no surgery involved. Where will I be able to access one? Well, that is the $1 million question. So at the moment, the machine has FDA clearance, which means that it's cleared for commercial use in America. But the conditions of its commercial use from the FDA are relatively narrow at the moment. So at the moment, it is only cleared for use on cervical injuries for hand and arm function in clinic. So you can't just go out and buy one. What kind of clearance it will gain in Europe and in the UK, we don't know. So we're waiting to hear about that. And then, of course, the next big question is when. Our best guess is towards the end of this year. But again, things slightly, I'm afraid, complicated by Brexit. It may require separate UK clearance from Europe. So don't know how long that process will take, but we will stay very close to it and we will keep you guys informed. Is training required for its use? Yes, it is, yes. I mean, another reason for it to be in clinic, because people can be trained to use it. You have to stick to safe thresholds. You obviously don't want to create any damage or, do anything that causes problems. So yes, training will be required to use it. What does a course of treatment involve? Well, as you can see, I'm sitting next to a machine here, a gym machine. I'm afraid that you can't just put the machine on, flick a switch, sit in an armchair and expect something to happen. To get results, it has to be paired with consistent, active, activity-based rehab. So function, task-based rehab at the same time that the stimulation is done in order to kind of stimulate in the correct way. And as I said, this trial was 3 times a week for a year. What we saw was function improve. So the longer it was used, the better things got. And the general pattern was not much happening at the beginning and then more happening over time. And the other question we had was, do the effects last? Yes, in our experience from this trial, again, we're only 10 participants, very small number of people. But yes, what we saw was people get better. They didn't go backwards. And some people even continued to recover function and improve once the stimulation had stopped. But the general premise from Onward and from what we've seen in other trials is that things improve and continue to improve the more the machine is used. There will be a natural cut-off point, but generally, yes. So what happens if it doesn't work on me? Well, this is the thing, is because it works on spare tissue, because results will vary and every injury is individual, there will be people that this doesn't really do very much for. And the answer to that is don't lose hope. We at Spinal Research are funding lots of different therapies, looking at lots of different stuff in the lab. And the next thing would be to have a look at, say, for example, plasticity enhancing drugs that you could pair with the stimulation to try and help boost the results, or intermittent hypoxia, something like that. So, one of the questions that we often get asked is, why are you guys, asking for money? What's happening? We're not saying anything. It's like, well, the answer is that there are lots of very promising therapies. This is the first one kind of out of the gate. There are lots of very promising therapies, but the problem is that the process of getting them from where they are now in the lab through all the processes and approvals and trials they have to do to be delivered to us in chairs is a lengthy and unfortunately very expensive one. So that is what we fundraise for, that is what we are trying to fund, that is what we're trying to push. So, there will be other things that this can be paired with. As we know, curing paralysis won't be a silver bullet. There won't be one thing that just, cures us all. It will be a journey of restoration function with different things doing different stuff. But that is why we keep on asking you guys for money, and I hope that we can keep on funding stuff to see a cure ultimately for paralysis in time. So I think that's all of the main questions. These will be up on our website, which is spinalresearch.org. So please go there if you wanted to go back through these again. Don't want to have to listen to this, me rattling on. Yes, just keep on following us, please. We're on social media. We'll keep on telling you as much as we can, and I hope that's helpful. Thanks very much.